I'm pleased to demonstrate for our subscribers new sky hooks for screwdrivers. No strings, no magnets. Simply place your screwdriver in midair wherever you want. To set this up would unfortunately cost about £250 per screwdriver. Hello everyone, it's nearly Christmas, so I thought I'd share this interesting thing and my teaser video. Thank you to everybody who watched it. Yes, I can put a screwdriver anywhere in the air, anywhere in the garage, so that I can just pick it up. Sky hooks, they're a real thing. No, I didn't use any strings. I could have put my hand anywhere around it. No, there was no magnets. We had a few really radical ideas. But actually it's just done with high-speed air. And in this, the To the Garage Christmas lecture, a bit like the Reef lectures, only you don't get Stephen Hawking, you get me. I'll explain the principle behind this, how you can play with it, and how it applies to our cars. So first of all, just to make sure, literally, no strings, no magnets, nothing up my sleeve. All I have is a very big compressor and some air. So that is a genuine screwdriver. It's not a hollow, light, helium-filled thing, as some people maybe suggested. Also, the screwdriver I levitated in my little teaser clip had some green tape around the top. That was just there to make people think, oh, there's something clever or hidden on it. Airline, screwdriver, just get it so that you can see. For your interest, I'm using about 120 PSI. I've turned the compressor off because it's so noisy. I'm just using the tank, so my flow rates are a little reduced. That is how you do it. And in my teaser clip, I had full bore air. If the sound had been on, you wouldn't have had the same level of intrigue because you'd have heard the compressor going 10 to the dozen. So what's going on here and how effective is it? That is actually quite a heavy item. And I've got a tiny nozzle. Ooh, misses. Here is a garden water feeder, just to demonstrate the principle better. It is lighter than that, but actually the important part is the radius on this. We'll come back to that in a second. So you'll know I can be off to the side, doesn't matter. So I'll put my hand here. As long as I'm quick, I'm okay. But I can levitate anything that has a radius there, given sufficient air pressure. This I could levitate with a lot less of air pressure. At a lower distance. It's not actually the pressure that's important at all, it's the speed of the air. So yes, you could have sky hooks all around your garage for all of your tools. It'd be incredibly noisy. It would cost you a fortune in electricity, and the cheapest capable compressors are about £250 a shot. So yes, you could use them. What's actually happening, what's the principles at play here, and how does it apply in any way other than novelty factor to our cars? What we're actually seeing here is two scientific principles at play. We've got Bernoulli's principle and the Courant effect. Bernoulli's the guy who told us that air rushing over a surface reduces air pressure. I'm paraphrasing massively, but you know, this isn't a science channel. It's a tinkering in your garage channel. So, here's a floppy piece of cardboard. I've obviously got some fast flowing air. So if I want to raise this, the most obvious thing to do is to blow it up. And yeah, I can do that But what's far more interesting is if I blow across the top of it, that will happen again, but far more effectively. And that's because of Bernoulli's effect. Air running over a surface reduces air pressure. You think, well, reduces air pressure, so very interesting. What's pushing it up? Air pressure. Air pressure in our everyday lives exists. We're all under pressure all the time. It's just pushing in all directions at the same rate. However, if you choose to say, oh, the air on this surface is going to move very fast, then the air pressure underneath this, and it's everywhere all the time, is able to push against the gravity that's involved in this equation and lift this very easily, because the air pressure under is now higher than the air pressure over. So what that tells us is, we take any object, and if I blow across a surface, I will reduce the air pressure, and therefore this will try to lift. However, how much actual surface will be here? Very, very little. You know, straight line of air rushing across this might make contact with a little 1 centimetre patch on the top of it. So on its own, Bernoulli's principle doesn't really explain how I can levitate a screwdriver and put it at a distance and balance it and move it around and all sorts of other good things. To understand that better, you also need the Courant effect. And the Courant effect shows us that air likes to follow surfaces. If we imagine for a moment that this is our jet of air, and I aim it straight up like that on the side of this item, the reality of what happens is the air won't travel like that. The air will travel, and I'm going to maneuver my fingers, the air will travel more like that. And that's because it's going to try and hug this surface. Again, massively paraphrasing the real science behind this, but a good way of getting your head around it. There's air pressure everywhere. There's air flooding in. Theoretically, there's a tiny gap between the air and this surface where my up-running airflow can squeeze through. And in doing so, it's slightly easier for it. It hasn't got to go through all of that air. So air likes surfaces. However, air has weight, not a lot. And you know, if you run really fast on a slippery surface down a corridor and then try and take a quick left bend, you know you're going to overrun, skid a little bit, and then finally make the bend. Air is the same, which is why if I've got this and I blow air up the side of it, the air will nicely be attracted to that surface and run parallel for it. But when it tries to make the bend, it's going to overshoot. And it's going to overshoot, it'll try to get back, and it might tumble, you know, but by the time it's turned the corner, it's too late, it's over here. And it never got close to this surface. And air pressure close to a surface and a fast running stream of air close to a surface, as we've established, will reduce the air pressure. So this would be drawn this way. But the air doesn't get very close to that surface, the fast moving air, because it can't make that bend. It's too sharp. So anything that has a rounded radius like this enables the air to take the bend, and no, it won't go all the way round, but it'll stay in contact with the surface far longer before eventually it loses its grip because it's got weight, it's got momentum, and tumbles off the end. So a curved top on anything will enable it to be lifted because we've got Bernoulli effect acting on a much larger surface here, and a lot of it being on the top, than we would on this, which a good surface there, it's going to be drawn that way, but up, no. Just isn't going to touch the top if I do this. I can literally feel that being dragged towards me. But as soon as I let go of it, it's sort of, off she goes. There's nothing doing that. Let's try the corner. Won't work. It's just too sharp. This is heavier than that. Because the air is in contact for a much larger surface on the top face, and he's trying to lift it. The Courant effect also explains why this just doesn't slide out of this thin stream of air. You know, oh yeah, I can see that, but why doesn't it just pop that way or pop that way? Because air pressure here and here is still normal, and it's trying to push it back into the stream because this air is taking the easiest possible route, which is the direction it's being thrown because it has some weight, and it's following a surface. So we've got this lift in that area where my finger is touching, being counteracted by air pressure here, air pressure here, air pressure here, gravity here, and there is a point at which it all just balances. Right, I'm going to risk taking you outside for a few seconds. I do have a muff or dead cat on my microphone, so I'm hoping you'll still be able to hear me. But today, we're in Lincolnshire, notoriously windy place. You can hear my garage door going all the time. We have 50-mile-an-hour winds. I've already been hit in the face, genuinely, by the lid on my wheelie bins. So I'm just going to take you outside just to show you something. So these are the wheelie bins. This morning they were, not surprisingly, on their backs. I came out, stood them back up, and as I was stood on this side, I was whacked in the face by the bin lids because they opened, hinged all the way over, and really gave me a big smack on the head. I tried turning the bins round because, like most, my first instinct is, oh well, of course the wind's getting under this side, and flipping it up makes no difference. With the lid on the other side, the lids were chattering like this. They weren't going over, but they were still chattering. And of course all the rubbish was coming out. This bin lid was less affected. Sharp edges everywhere. This one and the grey one, massively affected because nice curves on top of it. And what's happening is the air is rushing across the top of the bin lid, and that's what lifts it, and that's what's causing the bin to rise. It's not the wind getting under it. There are various other things in my garden, including that little log shelter, that are trying to lift just at the moment, but fortunately it's quite angular. Although it's quite light, it's not been ripped off. My flagpole is waving in the wind, so my windsock has been removed and flagged. I don't know if you can get a sense of how strong the wind is, but I am bracing myself against it. How does this apply to our cars? Well, cars have these very nice curved top surfaces. That means air likes to stick to them. As you drive through the air very fast, it's the equivalent of a strong wind coming from the front. And when the air hits the front of your car, some of it's going to go through the air intake, but most of it has to be split to go two ways. Another interesting way of thinking about air, and this is not strictly true, but it kind of helps to understand, is if you've got air rushing in from the front and it was at 3 levels, top, middle and bottom, trying to manipulate my fingers like that. The bit of air that's here and a bit of air that's here and a bit of air that's here, they're all friends. They would love to get back together. So even though they go 3 different routes, they would love to get back together. So one bit of air goes underneath the car and he travels quite a short path because it's a straight line out to the back. The bit of air that goes over the top, he's going to stick real close to the bodywork if he can, because Corander effect, he's going to follow these curves and not bounce off into the atmosphere. It's going to be drawn to this lot. But he's got a longer distance to go because he's got to follow this up, this down. So he is going to have to go very fast in order to try and catch up with his friend who went underneath. Now this is definitely pseudoscience I'm giving you here, but it helps understand the logic. The air going over the top tends to go faster than the air going underneath a car that has not got aero devices under it. So as it goes over the top, and it goes over the curves, and it's going even faster than the air that's going underneath, you generate lift. That lift would even turn into drag if this surface carried on round like that. But it doesn't. You see the styled in spoiler. The spoiler is doing is stopping the air from sticking to the bodywork as it would love to do, because if it runs down this surface smoothly, it's actually going to generate a low pressure area just here and drag the car backwards. Not a lot, but enough. So here we break the air up, we make it overrun. Oh, I want it to be there. It tumbles. We don't get that draw backwards. XKRs have a little stuck on additional spoiler, which helps reduce the lift that would otherwise be generated by this beautifully smooth curve, which is even more accentuated on the coupe, or coupe as I keep being told to call it. This disturbs the airflow and stops this lifting effect. I'm not an aerodynamicist, but those are the principles behind why cars tend to have spoilers and little devices at the back. You can also go the opposite route and make sure that the air that goes underneath your car sticks close to the bottom of the car and runs faster than the air going over the top, by kind of forcing it into a small gap and making it get through a lot quicker. That produces a compensating downward force by reducing the air pressure under the car. And that's where you get ground effects no road car has true ground effects that I'm aware of. But we can certainly have a compensatory level of reducing air pressure by smoothing up the under trays, making the airflow fast and smooth underneath, so that we're at least getting some downward forces as well to negate some of the upward forces. So, a little random film for you today. I hope you find that interesting. If all it does is make you Google Courant effect, Bernoulli principle, then I feel I've done a good thing. If you've not yet chosen your career path and you are watching this video, then I would give you a little advice, and that is, if you like playing around with cars in your garage, you enjoy tinkering, you enjoy this sort of stuff that I get up to, maybe you should be a scientist or a physicist or an aerodynamicist. And all the ists and ologies mean science. And so most mechanics, in my opinion, are problem solvers, and they have a scientific way of thinking. So maybe you should look into the sciences. I feel I've done my STEM ambassador bit for the year now. So if you're not in the UK, that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics. And yeah, a lot of younger people aren't attracted to those as tough, and how do I get a job using those? So many ways, so many ways. For those I don't speak to again before 2024, have a marvellous Christmas and make sure you have an amazing 2024. I hope it brings you all health, wealth and happiness. I hope it brings you lots of your favourite YouTube channels. So please subscribe to mine. If you don't already, it costs you nothing and just helps the channel out. Click the subscribe button and I'll be sharing lots and lots more secrets of the XK8. Bye all. If you're enjoying our channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notifications of new videos. And please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, and you can share the videos. And below the video is always the area where you can comment and get involved with the chat.